Pregame.tv, here we go. Steelers, the black and the gold. We're back, 1-4, trying to turn the season around so R.J. Bell isn't grumpy all year long. They're trying to turn it around against the Baltimore Ravens team that's played some tough games so far. Both these teams, I think we can say, have disappointed, but especially the Steelers. 0-4, they go out to London. They finally get their act together against the Jets. They are 1-4. They are in a very competitively priced game here. Steelers are a 1.5 to 2-point favorite against Baltimore. Brady Kannon, you like a side in this one?
Yeah, I do. I think the Steelers, it was a perfect setup for them last weekend, coming off of the 0-4 start. Out of a bye week. They get the win against the Jets and an impressive win. The Ravens struggled. Good game with the Packers, but they just could not get the offense clicking. They came up a couple of points short, and I think that sets them up pretty decently for a little bit of line value here, where the Steelers coming off of that nice win against the Jets, maybe pushing that line up a little higher, where the Ravens, kind of suffering that Super Bowl hangover all year long, certainly haven't been as impressive as they were last year, or maybe that we expected, as you just mentioned. So, I think there's maybe a little bit of something in the number. I also think the Ravens are the better team. Now, we also talked about this rivalry matchup here in the AFC North, always decided by 3 points or less. In fact, 8 out of the last 10 times decided by 3 points or less. So I think taking a couple points is a good deal, too.
Probably a great teaser given the history of how these two teams have played so close to the vest. The one thing I do this with Brian all the time. I play point counterpoint. So I'm like, instead of the golf clap, I'm like, here's my concerns. Last year, the Steelers, they were 6-2. They were rolling along and Big Ben gets hurt. And then they got to play the back-to-back games against this team, Baltimore, and they got to go with the much despised Byron Leftwich and the universally beloved Charlie Batch.
Right.
And Leftwich blows one of the games and they lose, and Batch manages to secure another one and they win. So so basically I've got 2 games last year where these teams play really, really close. They split, but I had to do it with my backup quarterback in both of them. And now I'm thinking the Steelers are like, okay, we got Big Ben back. Here's our situation. And they can look back at how their season went south during that 3-week stretch, because in between they played a sandwich game at Cleveland, and they lost to Cleveland when Leftwich and company turned it over 9 times. I think they were in the Bumblebee uniforms.
Yes.
God, I hate those so much.
That's bad.
Yes, on the throwback. They played like it was throwback football. So I'm wondering if they don't view that stretch as kind of the object of their destruction last year, and maybe this year, this is the game that can kind of turn it around.
Certainly a little revenge there, but again, I just don't know what you're referencing there is what I feel is a very different Steeler team this year. And we saw them get pretty beat up in the first 4 games. And again, I think they got healthy. They had the bye week. It was a perfect situation for them against the Jets. But now they come back to reality, and they got to play the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, and I think that there's the Steelers kind of have gone from a rescue mission to a recovery mission. They know that it's not their year, and they're just kind of more trying to save face than to even think about getting it back into the playoff mix and with what they can do. And so I worry about that when a team has got the bagel, the donut, the goose egg, no wins, and they finally get one. It's almost like, okay.
Exactly. They're going to exhale.
Yeah, they're going to put the ping pong tables maybe back in the clubhouse, whatever the coach is like, not letting them have fun like the USC coach.
Hey, now it's fun again. We got a win under our belt.
The USC coach said they'd taken ice cream and cookies off the pregame meal menu, and Ed Orgeron put him back on.
Really? Did he?
He's done, yeah. So he's done the opposite.
Didn't agree with that move by Kiffin, huh?
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that Kiffin disagreed with a lot of what Kiffin was doing, but that goes to show, like, what, and it's interesting as far as job security. How if Tomlin goes in the tank here, how secure is his job? Might they be crying for his head?
I don't think so. I mean, this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right? I mean, what have they had? 3 or 4 coaches? 3 coaches in my lifetime.
90 years, right?
Yeah, So I certainly don't think they're going to chop him off with one bad year. This is, you could argue the best organization in football. Year in and year out, they are a contender, but this year I don't think they are. And I think you make a good point there, and that goes into my point as well about them finally getting that win under their belt and exhaling a little bit. And now you got to take on a team that's very physical and could shock them a little bit here.
Very good. I am concerned about the fact that was such a physical game with the Packers against Baltimore. Obviously,
what a game that
two
was,
of the Packers wide receivers get knocked out.
Yeah.
They're down to Jordy Nelson, a guy I've never heard of as far as their receiver option. So that concerns me as well, that Baltimore couldn't secure the win given the wounded Packer team.
I was really surprised by how well the Packer defense played. They were incredible without Clay Matthews.
Yeah.
They maybe played the best game I've seen them play all year.
I've got them number 3 in my power ratings with San Francisco and with New Orleans. Of course, Seattle number 2, Denver number 1. We'll talk more about that we have a Super Bowl preview line, AFC versus NFC. For now, let's go ahead and make this one official with Baltimore, though.
The Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field on Sunday. We're going to make our pick the Ravens plus the 2 points. The defending champions, Super Bowl champions, off of a loss when facing a team that is off of a win. 13-3-3 against the spread. The Steelers also 0-5 against the spread at home off of a big win. Steve and I talked about the Steelers get that win under their belt. They're going to maybe breathe easy, feel good about that accomplishment, and relax just half a tick, enough for the Ravens to come in here and get the W on Sunday. The other factor is the Ravens, I think, are the better team this year. Although they have disappointed, the Steelers, we know, they were 0-4. Now they've got a win under their belt, but they were 0-4. They're not the Steelers of norm. We're going with the Ravens.
Very good. And you may well be teasing some Ravens and some Falcons together, right? And
yeah.
Both your picks fall into that.
You talked me into it.
Tease through the 3 and the 7, so you got the basic strategy working through.
They're the numbers we want.
It's funny in this business, Brady. There's so much going on. I just multitask. I've got texts coming in. And by the way, I used to play poker a lot online. I'd play 4 different tables, so I feel I can effectively multitask. And a friend of mine, Sharp, he's like, have you gotten to the LVH yet to go ahead and get these bets in? And he's, of course, not talking about doing your homework early for this week. He's talking about the look-aheads for next week. And he's already, been analyzing me. He's given me his numbers, so that's funny. And so, Jared, I'm working as fast as I can. I do videos every night. It never changes. Tuesday, 6:30 to 8:30. Then I go over Ken Thompson. We go to Legacy. We break down the games. And then afterwards, I go to the LVH like clockwork at 9:15 arrive. Nothing has changed. You can't text me at 7 o'clock while I'm on air. It doesn't work that way. I can't get on a helicopter between shoots and get over there. I'll be there at 9:15. Hopefully we find a winner.
Sounds good.
I feel better. And by the way, one more bonus free pick as far as I love the look-ahead lines at the LVH. If for no other reason, you should always get them to see how much value are you getting or missing out on when you look at a line. Now, people are saying, oh, Fezzik, you've lost your mind. You're laying 2.5 minus 20 on the Eagles. The look-ahead line, you could have gotten the Eagles +1. But here, everything has changed. The Eagles, I've raised 1.5 on my power rating. I've lowered Dallas 2 points in my power rating with all those injuries. So there's a key situational changes have occurred versus there's other games where the line has moved and not a lot has really occurred. One of those games you could look at is on the look at, you could have laid 3 with Kansas City this week. Now the line's 6.5, heading to 7. So it puts into perspective anyone who thinks they're stealing with Kansas City, you could have just laid 3 last week. So good stuff. I'll be over at that LVH as I do each and every Tuesday. Regimented schedule.
Sounds good, man.
All right, Brady. We're going to break down one more NFL action here. Cade wants to talk Super Bowl. No. Sunday night, it's Denver Broncos. We have to talk about the Broncos, America's favorite team, even without Tebow. They are playing at the Colts. Are we going to see this looks a lot like the Dallas Cowboy-Denver Bronco game of 2 weeks ago. If you think about that, you probably know which way I'm going to pick on this. Stay with us, pregame.tv.